All right, guys, I am off interview shoot today. Figured I'd try to do a little behind the scenes, what I do in an interview, how I'm gonna set it up, what kind of questions I'm gonna ask, and make a little video out of it. I thought that'd be fun. So, off to the location, got the car packed for gear. Let's go do that thing. All right, we're in here. Beautiful restaurant she owns. Name of the game right now is figuring out good spot to set up for this interview, get everything lined up in a nice way. You know, think about sound, windows, all that good stuff. The restaurant's not open, but they are doing prep work for meal service later. So, gotta check out a few spots, put all that stuff somewhere. Just a little gear today. And yeah, get things set up, say hi to Kelly, and get things going. Reason you get to a site early is to discover things like this. This phone is going to ring the entire time we're trying to do this interview. So need to look at silencing that guy before we get the interview going. Okay, gorgeous space. Should be a lot of opportunities. Good place to set stuff up. Let's do it. We're gonna make some B-roll. Setting up angles, figuring out some way to set up this interview that it looks nice. I wanna get some leading lines and all that good stuff. I want somewhere that I'm actually gonna be able to set up the lights, tripods, 2 cameras. And also just think about like what the background of each camera is going to be and make this interesting and also make it unique to her. So going around, camera on a tripod, checking out some shots. All right, so here we go, shooting down the bar. This is one idea. So this room's kind of cool, but the only major issue is that window is giant and letting in a ton of light. So that light's gonna change as we're shooting. So the lights I set are gonna have to do a lot of work, but also just during the shoot itself, the lights are gonna fluctuate as that window changes. So this is a cool room, but I don't know if we're gonna go with it. Kind of like the bar right now, but we'll see. I'm gonna abandon this room. I've tested it out on the camera a few times. I think this window is just so bright. Unless I start adding ND filters and messing around, I think exposure is gonna be chaos, and the back of the room is gonna be so dark, I'm gonna have to light that back up. So let's try the main room, and then we'll go back to the bar. I think we're gonna end up at the bar. We're in the main room. I've got the camera over there. I'm trying to see if we can get an interesting frame, but immediately the biggest thing that's annoying me about this room, and I'd love to get that branding up there where it says Pearl. Problem is, that pole is really bothering me. And if it's gonna be in the entire interview, right in the background, am I really getting anything out of using that, the Pearl branding if all I see is just this giant pole? I'll set it up with the camera, see if I can frame it up interesting to make that pole not be a big deal, but I would love to have the restaurant in the scene. Maybe we'll just use this for B-roll, but maybe we'll use the bar actually. We'll see. Back to the pole not working out. It's up my nose. Especially when I leveled the camera out and got it the right height, all I see is pole. So I think we're gonna stick with the bar, which was the first shot. We're just gonna go with it. We're gonna go with the bar setup. It was the first one. It felt right. Always wanted to do in a bar. We just gotta clean out the background a little bit. Actually get Kelly in position so I can see the height and make sure that's good. But first, I'm gonna get both of the lights in. I'm going to get the other camera set up and then kind of build out this little scene here. Camera's set, lights set. We're probably gonna move anything anyway, but we got the big Amaran 200 with the big light dome. I have a Lightstorm 60 with a little barn door just for a little, you know, hair light, whatever. And then I'm going to throw some MCs in the bar to kind of uplight that stuff. Cameras, I'm over here right now. This is the way I'm thinking of going. Looking over here. So I'm gonna sit over there. The camera should be looking into the dark side. We got this lighting things up. So for the bar, we're gonna make this a little brighter. Either add the tube light in or a couple of the MCs to kind of make some of the bottles pop. And this is why you talk to people. Turns out the bar already had blue lighting. Why add it? We already got it. I lied. I added 4 more MCs in there. Add a little one up there, one over there, over there, over there. Looks that much better. we're gonna bring Kelly in and now do our kind of like final setup, the actual placement where she's gonna be, where the lights are exactly going to be, dial everything in, take a quick break, get right into the interview. We got Kelly in position now. We got lights. Kelly, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay, good, but that's not the interview.
Put the AC on? Yeah.
Yes,
Is
for
it
the
over
love
yet?
of God, please.
Is it over yet?
Cool. We got 2 cameras. We have a beautiful frame going on. Let's actually press the record button to make sure they work.
Blue lights.
We have blue light frame now. I think it looks good. I'm gonna sit over there. It's gonna go great. We're done. Kelly's still talking to me. I'm still talking. It was a great interview. She did an awesome job. Everything was very easy. I obviously am great at what I do. No, but it was a nice little interview. We went about 30.
Thank you, Sean.
See, she's even still talking to me. We went about 30 minutes. We asked a bunch of questions. Easy peasy. We had plenty of scheduling and open time. We'll cut in some clips of how the interview went, how it looked. And let me give you just one more little peek here because I added a little extra lighting when I was talking. So look, I put one of the big tube lights right there to try to get that bar a whole lot brighter. I just gotta now remember to take out all my lights, but definitely that tube light.
It's mind-blowing to be running in less than 3 months. I didn't run for 25 years, and the pain was significant. And there isn't pain when I'm running, and I don't know how or why they've been able to do it, but they have.
We're back in the studio. Got the interview already on the computer. A couple tips I might have for how to do an interview. I have no idea how long this list will be. Maybe it'll be 10 things. The first thing I like to think about in doing a good interview is make sure you've already had a conversation with the person you're going to do your interview with before you do the interview. It could be very similar to the interview you actually do, but this is going to help in a big way of getting you familiar with your subject, having them be familiar with you, break the ice, make things very smooth. You don't want to start your conversations with a person when you press the record button. You want to have already broken that ice. Next thing is gonna be what I like to call the prep. When I start an interview, this is after I've already mic'd them, probably already have the cameras rolling, I'm in my little chair, I'm making eye contact. The first thing I wanna do is just set up the expectations of how the interview go. I always say this. I'm gonna be editing this. This isn't going live anywhere. We can start and stop whenever you want. There's no pressure here. We're just having a conversation. And as I'm asking you questions, try your best to answer in as much of a full sentence as possible. So like if I ask you what your name is, my name is Kelly, instead of just going Kelly. This is usually a good spot to kind of slide in a joke or something like that. So they understand that even though the cameras are rolling, there's zero pressure here. What I also did right there is also the exact same thing I'm gonna do during the interview, is I'm going to set the expectation for how fast to talk and how loud to talk. I'm gonna go into a much calmer, smoother voice with pauses and to speak a little more deliberately than I normally would just be rattling through sentences. And what that does is it helps set the tone and make them calm a little bit. So like anytime I ask a question, I'm gonna bring that calmness back down, unless I'm intentionally trying to irritate or excite a person while they're talking to me. You need to be looking at the person you are interviewing. I try to do almost everything as a one-man band, so that usually means I have cameras to monitor, I have sound to monitor, maybe the room, maybe some questions. I have to fight that entire time to make sure I'm maintaining eye contact with my subject. There's nothing more important than that. That I will usually in that framing in the interview say something along the lines of, if I happen to look at my camera while I'm listening to you, it's by no means me being bored. It's simply, I just need to make sure our levels are coming in good or something like that. And that worked out great. Along with eye contact, the entire interview, you can also tell them something along the lines of that while we're talking, I may not be able to really answer you as we would have a normal conversation because I want to make sure my audio doesn't mix in.
But understand that I am listening to you and I am having a conversation with you. What you do while a person is talking, because they're going to be curious if they want you to keep going, or if they want to keep going, is you need to talk with body language and you need to talk with nods and eyes. Someone says something that's interesting. You give them gestures like that. That way they keep talking, they understand they're being heard, and they're gonna keep going. What can happen very quickly, if you start giving some yeahs, uh-huhs, I agrees, they stop answering the question, because in a normal conversation, it should be your turn to talk. You want them to keep going. Here's another amazing tip, and that's something that I struggle with sometimes because I want to keep talking, is once they answer a question and you feel like maybe you asked something that was a little emotional and they gave you a very analytical, fact-driven answer, wait and let silence just fill the room. Don't ask another question. Allow it to be awkward. And more times than not, a person is going to see that you're waiting for more and allow themselves to have finally actually processed the question and actually answer what you asked them. And they were going to answer in a far more emotional way. Generally, not everyone does this. Some people are so far on the spectrum of analytic and fact-oriented that they're never going to give you an emotional answer. As questions go, I will never use a question sheet in front of me. I've done it, I've tried it, I hate it. I want to be very well prepped and versed for my interview. I want to know the subject. I'm going to think of questions and where I want the conversation to go before we start. And I'm then not going to use a question sheet. I'd rather miss or forget to ask certain questions because I'm so wrapped up in how the conversation evolves than the distraction of me looking at a phone or looking at a piece of paper so they feel like they're being scored by some kind of like test giver or something like that. I hate that. Have a conversation with the person you're talking to. Be prepped and in the moment and ready for them. Oh, an interesting tip, because I have always struggled to get those good answers where people say the really real hard statements where they talk themselves up, because most people do not want to talk themselves up. What I found is the easiest way to get somebody to say something really cool is to ask the opposite of that. So like if I'm working with a training client, say something along the lines of, so are the workouts easy? Now you're giving them a layup for how to answer that question. No, the workouts are not easy. The workouts are super hard. And now they're allowed to give in almost the ability to really freely talk about something in a way that makes them sound cool without making them feel, the opposite of humble. Arrogant, I guess would be the way to say it. Let's talk body language. So we said we're keeping eye contact with our subject the whole time. And we're giving them their nods, we're giving them some hands. It is crucial during an interview to not just make yourself seem interested, but to avoid certain gestures. Sitting with your arms crossed would be one of the biggest ones. Sitting with your arm crossed is a closed body language. It's saying, I don't want any more. Fight to keep your hands open. Fight to keep your hands on a desk or looking at them or crossed in front of you at least. Arms crossed? No. Another really interesting thing you can do is mirror their body language while they're talking. If while they're saying an answer, they lean back and fall into their chair, you should do that as well. They're going to subconsciously feel like you guys are on the exact same wavelength. Same thing, if they start really leaning in to tell you a point, lean in and listen that much closer. I guarantee you, it will create so much more connection. I do rapid fire interviews. I might do 10 interviews in the same day, and I need to build that rapport really fast and get things going. Jumping in there and following that body language and those cues, being super positive and engaged, it's going to lead to a much more comfortable subject and a much better interview. The last couple tips I could think about are, while you're interviewing someone, know what you need. Like, every subject is going to need a beginning, middle, and an end to their story. Whether they're doing a product testimonial or they're helping support someone else's video, you're going to need to get those beginning, middle, and ends. Beginnings and ends oftentimes are just going to be a sign off. Tell me what your name is, where we are, what you're doing. make sure to get a couple versions of that. I always do it at the beginning of the video and the end of the video because it's an easy question to answer. And then at the end of the video, it's a great way to actually get the good take of it because their voice will have calmed down. In the middle, you need to make sure they're actually saying good declarative sentences about, I was doing this because. This product is great because. And you can even prompt them and say something like, look, let's say you feel like you're really not getting that clear, simple sentence and they gave you a long, rambly answer. You could say something like, so can we rephrase, or maybe if I'm hearing you right, we could simplify you saying something along the lines of, and why don't you start your sentence with something like, this product is great because, or Maine is an awesome state because, and then give them the cue to get going and be like, I loved your answer. Let's just simplify it down a little bit. Or if you have a person that's very disorganized, give them that cue of saying like, so it looks like the 3 points that you were talking about are X, Y, and Z. Is that correct? Cool. Could you say those back to me one more time? Now all of a sudden you have a much clearer, more concise answer. It's much easier on the edit. Life is good. But so that beginning, middle, and end, you need a way to make sure you can start your interview and set the person up into the video piece you're working on. You need those simple sentences that really say something. And then you need a closing. What's the future? Where are we going? Do you recommend? And get those simple, easy sentences that you can cut into your project. One of the last things I want to think about is making sure you have a good mix. The same way you might think about shot selection. You have mediums, wides, tights. You need to think about answers. Are all your answers analytical, fact answers? Are all your answers emotional feelings answers? You need a mix of both of them. And regardless of what your personality type is like, you need to ask people about how things made them feel. Did that make you feel sad when your puppy died? You know, what happened on the night your puppy died, right? Those two questions are graphic. I don't know why I went to puppies dying, but they're going to give you different types of answers. Okay, cool. I have the date now. I have the location. I have the cause. But the feelings are just as important and generally will resonate with more people better. But you need a mix of both of them. If you don't have the facts, you can't tell a story. But also if you don't have the emotional context, you're not going to make a story that's compelling for people to listen to. So thinking the same way you might think about different shots is thinking about different emotional different types of answers, whether emotional or fact-driven. Hopefully some of these interview tips will help out a little bit, get your process going, and lead to some better interviews. That's it. See ya.